viewers, listeners, and supporters. I am your host, Brianna, podcast Bree Harris, and I am so excited to be here. If you are a new audience member, we are so grateful to have you. Welcome to another episode of Connected, where we discuss all things mental health, recovery, employment, and stories. Before we dive in, this show is sponsored by Contra Costa Health Services and John Muir Health Services. Today, we are honored to have a truly inspiring guest with us, one of our program directors here at Mental Health Connections. For over 30 years, she has dedicated herself to advocating for families and individuals facing complex challenges, particularly in the world of autism and mental health. She's not only a seasoned professional in program development, curriculum design, and community engagement, but also someone who has lived the journey firsthand as a mother in Oakland, California. In the 1980s, when autism awareness was far less developed, she was alone in navigating healthcare and educational systems to find the right resources for her son. Through her perseverance, she built a network of support that has been transformative, both for her family and her community. Despite setbacks, including a significant injury to her son that has shaped his path, she continues to be a powerful advocate and role model for resilience. Today, she's here to talk about the power of vulnerability, a concept that has been integral not only to her own personal journey, but also to her work as a leader and advocate. She'll share how embracing vulnerability has helped her persevere through some of the toughest moments in her life and how it has shaped her work as a board member for the California Behavioral Health Planning Council, a former commissioner of the Contra Costa County Women's Commission, and her various roles in education and nonprofit development. Please welcome Lanita Mims.
Hi. You made that sound amazing. Like I was sitting there like, who is that?
That's you.
That's me.
That's you.
So,
how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to be sharing my story and my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about my family. I do have permission from my family to talk about my family because that is one of the most important things about a peer world is to make sure you have that permission so it don't bite you in the,
I know. That's good. I'm glad that you made aware of that because some people just be airing out they business all online. It's just like, okay, how your family feel about this? And the family come in like,
right. I didn't say
that wasn't the story.
That wasn't true.
So it's all good. This has been a long time coming doing this episode. Lanita has an incredible story, and just hearing it back again, we talked about it. I was just like, wow, autism is something that people talk about a lot now, day and age. But like I said, probably in the 80s and 90s, it was not probably something that was as developed as it is now, or people did not know that autism was a thing. Right. And then it was just like, now your child is living with you until they're 50 and it's just like, what's wrong with him, kind of situation, especially in our culture. So thank you for being on the show and talking about it and letting our listeners and viewers and supporters understand the power of vulnerability when you are in these kind of spaces.
Well, you're welcome. I'm excited to be sharing the things that I have learned and the situations that I have been through and our story is different from a lot of people because autism is an individual thing. And so people who live with autism or on the spectrum now is what they call it. People who live on the spectrum are very different from each other. They may have some similarities and some things that they do alike, but a lot of them, they just are individual people and each person's journey is individual in itself. So, yeah.
And it's probably easy to get misdiagnosed as well, too. I feel like we all on the spectrum at this point. Like, it's a long spectrum, and we just somewhere on it. I be like, Brianna, get it together. Yeah. What is wrong?
Yeah. You had those days where you like, okay, what's wrong with me? Yeah, definitely.
We all on the spectrum, just on different sides. So my first question is, you've been advocating for your son since the 80s, a time when autism awareness and support were very different. How did being vulnerable in those early years help you navigate a system that wasn't as receptive or understanding to your son's needs? And I know we talked about you in the beginning, you were a young parent. It was like, there's nothing wrong with my kid, which is totally, understandable. But how has, the power of vulnerability helped you navigate that?
So I think for us, I didn't know anything about any kind of diagnosis when I was younger and had children. I had my children young. And I was always like reading. I'm a reader, so I read everything. So I was always reading, researching, doing things like that. But I never thought it would happen to me, right? And I never thought, I worked for the school district for 17 years, and I was working there before I had children. And I saw kids that were being diagnosed with ADHD and ADD and all of these other things, and I just never thought it would be me. And so when it turned out and became me, I was kind of like, didn't want to talk about it, tried to sweep it under the rug for the first couple years of his life. And then he started to stop breathing, and he would be drinking his milk, his bottle, and he would just be blue. And so we would have to rush him to the emergency room. And and then we finally got a really good doctor in Sacramento who said, your son, there's something wrong. He has a processing disorder, and he won't read, write, eat. He won't read, write, walk, talk, graduate from high school, have a baby, or drive a car. And that was like, what?
It's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. Like, your son's not gonna be able to do any of this. So when he got to first grade, it started showing up even more where he wasn't talking. He was walking, and he was running, and he was playing balls and stuff like that, but he wasn't talking. He wasn't using the bathroom regularly like he should have been. And he wasn't reading, he wasn't writing. And so that haunted me, what the doctor had said. And nobody in my family like really knew. And I didn't really share a whole lot as he was younger, because I always knew in my heart that he would be different. He would get past it, right? Yeah.
And so when he got to fourth grade, my family members started like, what's wrong with Kev? What's wrong with that? You know? And so I started having to share with some people that my son had a processing disorder. And at that time, I didn't know it was autism, right? It was just, they called it a processing disorder. And so I started having to share stories like, well, this is what happens. And then they're like, well, what does that mean? Or what does that do? It ain't that. He just need a spanking. He just need this. He just need that. And I'm like, nah, that ain't what it is. So then,
I'm not gonna beat my child into talking.
I'm not gonna, And so then the fourth grade teacher was an African American woman who taught in Berkeley School District, and she was like, you should probably start advocating for him and on a different level. And I didn't know what that meant, right? And I was just like, okay, I don't know what that means. So they wanted to test him and do special education. And so I saved up some money. I went to the Berkeley School of Optometry. I had him do a skills analysis test, and it came back that he was autistic. And so when it came back, the school district wouldn't even take the test.
And have you heard of autism prior to that? I'm sorry to cut you off. Okay, so that word was like new to you.
Right. So of course, when I heard that, right, it was like a 300-page document. So I had to go through all the pages, word for word, with a highlighter, highlighting.
Because it's not the internet.
Oh my God.
This is a document.
There was no internet. Dictionary, learning what words meant, like, and then I started talking to a doctor because I was working for the school district, so I had access to like the nurses, the people on campus, the special ed teachers, and so I just started talking to the school psychologist and asking questions, right, of the school I worked at. And then one lady, her name was Heather Caney. I'll never forget Miss Heather. Heather Caney, she worked at Hoover, and I worked at Hoover. She said, bring your son to this school. And I said, really? And she's like, yeah. So I talked the district into letting my son come into that school. He came to that school, and she worked with him and showed me how to work with him too. And then after that school year is when he went to Berkeley, and he met the lady, the fourth grade teacher in City of Franklin School. And then from there, we just kind of learned together. Like I took the test from the School of Optometry to the Berkeley Unified School District. They denied it. They wanted to do their own testing, so I ended up getting a special ed test done, and It showed the same results that the skills analysis test showed. So I lined it up together and created my own set of documents to start taking to the different schools. And then they came to me and said, well, we want to put him in a special day class. And I said, okay, we could do that if you put him in his right grade. Because by that time, he had been retained twice. And so he was the biggest kid on the elementary school campus. And I was like, we can do it for a year if you put him in the right grade. So then they put him in the 6th grade, so he skipped 5th grade totally. He went to school, and some of his friends were in the class that were missing from the other schools. You know how you be like, oh my God, what happened to such and such kid? Or what happened to that? They were all over here in this one class.
Oh, wow.
So then he started playing basketball. He went to King Middle School in Berkeley, and they had a 6th grade basketball team. And he started playing basketball, and from there he found his love of basketball. And then I started doing different stuff, right? I started just paying attention. I started watching. I started talking to him. We would take talks in the car, and I just asked him, like, what you want to do? And he was like, I want to be a basketball player. And I took it and ran with it. So we started reading basketball we started watching basketball documentaries. We started reading basketball biographical books, you know, about people who play. He learned about almost every basketball player that was playing at that time. And then for 7th grade, I went to an open house and I met a guy who started the school called the American Indian Public Charter School.
Is it still a school to this day? Do you know?
I believe it is, but I'm not 100% sure. I know he's not the principal of it anymore, but it still may be in existence.
And this is in where?
This is in East Oakland, off of, it was, at that time, it was on 35th and MacArthur, right across the street from Taco Bell.
Okay.
Right? And when I met the guy, I was like, well, can he bring his IEP? He was like, nah, we not doing no IEP. I was like, well, how are you supposed to? He was like, you don't need all that. He was like, we're going to take him where he is, and we're going to give him what he need. And I was like,
that takes vulnerability, though.
I was like, I don't know if I should believe all that.
Yeah. It's like, it's too good to be true.
But yeah, I became curious, and I was like, okay, let me go see what it looked like. So I went over there, and I saw some of the kids, met some of the parents, and I was like, okay, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So then we went there. He spent 7th and 8th grade there. By the time 8th grade ended, he was on grade level, reading, writing, and playing basketball.
That's what I'm talking
and ready to go to Skyline High School.
That's cool. And what I'm hearing from this is all vulnerability. Like, you had to be open and have the patience to get to know your child and figure out, you know, what it is. Because I feel like with autism, sometimes that's all it is, because they get hyper fixated on certain things. And so if you just kind of hone in on that, then you're good, you know. And just being open to the resources, talking about your experience, doing the analysis on your own and the tests and all of that, just that lets you have your guard down, because you ultimately want the best for your child. So it's like, I'm going to do what I have to do at the end of the day to make sure that it happens. And he got to the 8th grade, and I love that. And I wish we had more time to talk about that school, but we do not.
It's okay.
But thank you, Lanita.
You're welcome.
My next question are like, what were some of the hardest moments when you had to show vulnerability to whether it was doctors, educators, or even your friends and family, and how did it help you move forward? So you kind of answered it, but.
So it's the hardest part has been with friends and family. That's been the ultimate hardest part. Some family members don't believe in special needs. Some family members believe that
you can pray it away.
Yep, you can pray it away, or you can spank it away, or you can, you know, it's just more, you need more time with him, or he needs a different diet, or he needs this, and it's a little bit of all of it wrapped in one, and not just one solution.
Yeah.
And still to this day, we sit and we talk about where we going, who gonna be there. Every time I go somewhere, I'm like, oh, who's there? And people think I just ask that just because I'm trying to be nosy or whatever. But it's not that. It's a process for me to be able to take my son. I'm going to know if my son is welcome by who the people are that are going to be there.
That makes sense.
And so I've been able to like do little things like that help him along because I know my son and I know how he is with people. And I know some people don't, when one of the things with people who suffer from mental health challenges or any kind of diagnosis is they're always taken advantage of. Right. And so my son has been through a lot of things where things have been taken from him, stolen from him. People bullied him until he was able to put in his own self the courage that it took for him to be able to say, no, you're not doing that to me.
And set his own boundaries.
Right. And so family members did that too. So I just really like keep to our own little family circuit. We don't really branch out into other pieces of the family or whatever, which is sad, but it is true.
It be like that. Now that I'm a parent, we went through the holidays and people making comments or doing certain things, and you learn real quick. Like, you was a cool family member when I was this little Brianna and I was a kid. Yeah. Now I'm a whole adult. I'm approaching 30 and I have my own child and my own decisions in the way that I want to do things. And so I can definitely relate to that, that who's going to be there, because I don't need my child around this person.
And when things happen, who can I call? Who's going to be my support, right? Yeah. So things have happened throughout the years too where I felt like, okay, I'm not calling that person, but I'll call this one.
Okay. So has your journey influenced the work you do now as a program director? If so, in what ways?
Oh, definitely. Wow. Like, everything I do is because of where I've been. Everything I share is because of what I've learned. And every tip or every conversation that I've had with a person, and it could be a member, a family member, a friend of a friend, or anybody, I always try to give them my best perception of what I thought it was, or what I think it is, or what it could potentially become, right? My whole work career has been based on helping somebody not go through what I went through, still to this day.
So what advice would you give for parents who are in the beginning of their journey trying to advocate for their child?
Take a breath. Take a breath, breathe deep. That's so funny.
Breathe deep.
Just breathe deep and stop and listen to your kid. That's the most important part. And get out of the way of what the journey might be for the child and let them try to figure some of it out. Also, only put people in your journey that mean you well, right? People say they go, oh yeah, I can come help you do whatever. That's not true. People, you call them, they're like, oh, I can't do it today. I'm busy today. I can't pick him up. I can't do this. I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Only surround yourself with the people who are going to actually be there with you. My son has people in his life that have been there the whole time. I have people in my life that have been there the whole time, right? And a lot of the people that are in my life that call themselves friends are pretty good friends, but when it comes to my kids, or my kiddos, as people call them now, they are either not a part of their life, or they're a part of one or the other one's life. So like they might have started with all of them, and then now they're only really close to one or something like that. So only surround yourself with the people who have your family in mind and have your family in place.
That's a good one. So right now, I guess we'll just kind of jump forward to where your son is now. So he had a basketball injury in college. So he did make it to college, had a successful basketball career throughout high school at Skyline High School in Oakland. But he did injure himself. And so now he's trying to pivot and figure it out. And so he spends a lot of times figuring things out on his own. So it must be kind of difficult for you now that he's older. How do you stay vulnerable in that space?
I just try to be open with him and let him know, things aren't always what they seem, but everybody's journey is theirs. And to try to put things in place, like right now he's trying to find a job. So I'm trying to like reach out to all of my network to see who's hiring and what they're doing, and just get an idea of where he could possibly go. He had he broke his ankle in 3 places in October of 2023. He had a surgery in 2024, and now he's trying to get back from that, where he broke his ankle playing basketball, right? His basketball has been a whole life journey for him, and so I can't even imagine how not to be able to play right now is for him. So he's a little depressed. This morning I was talking to him and I was like, hey, what you gonna do today? And he was like, I don't know. And I was just like, ugh. So it is hard for me to watch. And I wish I could change it, but I can't. And I know that God, I know we are a spiritual family, and I know that God has a journey for him, and God has to be the lead and show him what's next. And hopefully it'll shine through pretty quickly, because he getting on my little nerves right now with all of this. Oh my God. Like, dude,
and that's
wake
okay
up.
To say.
Get
It's okay
up.
to say. Yeah.
Walk.
Find other things to be grateful for. Find something else that you kind of like. And I think at a certain point, people have to figure it out on their own. And as a parent, you have to step back. You don't want to be too overbearing and too like enabling, because we can do that as well as parents, and just kind of have to figure it out with the good, the bad, and the ugly. He does have a legacy, so you have a grandson, so it's so much to live for. And even though this story doesn't end on he's doing great and he's successful, because that's not how life is. And so it's just a continuation of the journey in his life path. So I'm gonna wrap this up. So finally, what would you like listeners to take away about the power of vulnerability in both caregiving and personal growth, especially when it comes to advocating for your child in systems that may not always be supportive? So any lasting things you want to let us know?
So 3 things. One is, whenever we are caring for another individual, we got to remember to take care of ourselves, right? So yes, I look different now because I'm caretaking for myself.
Good for you.
Still, while I'm caring for other folks. The second thing is to always listen to your kids. Like, they know what they're going through, even if they can't express it the way we want them to, or in the manner, or be respectful around what they're saying. You have to pay attention to what they're saying. And then the third thing is just offer love. Just
be a safe space.
Just be a safe space. Just be loving in a safe space. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, Lanita, I wish we could talk about so much more, because this story has so many different layers. But this has been another episode of Connected. Lanita, where can we find you?
You can find me at a peer center near you. No, but for real though. You
can find her on LinkedIn. Connect her on LinkedIn, because she got the connects.
Yep, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook, and I am on Twitter, and I am on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Lanita, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. This has been another episode of Connected, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.